Before Stephen Hawking passed away, he admitted something that shocked the whole world, an idea that he thought about his whole life, and in the final stage of his journey, he himself confirmed it. What is the mystery behind his final confession? So come on, let's find out. But before that, please like and subscribe. That's a big help for us content creators. Thank you very much. And now let's get started. Stephen William Hawking was born on January 8, 1942 in Oxford, England, exactly 300 years after the famous scientist Galileo Galilei passed away. At that time, the Second World War was happening, so his parents brought him from London to Oxford for a safer place for his birth. His father, Dr. Frank Hawking, was a doctor who studied medicine, and his mother, Isabel, also graduated from Oxford. When he was 8 years old, their family moved to St. Albans, Hertfordshire. Their life was quiet, and they liked to read books instead of talking a lot at the dining table. As a child, his grades were not always high, but his classmates noticed that he had a unique intelligence. They even called him Einstein. When he was 17 years old, he passed the scholarship exam. He entered University College, Oxford. He chose the course Natural Sciences because there was no mathematics degree there yet. Even though he was not always diligent in studying, he graduated with first-class honors. Because of this, he was able to go to Cambridge to study for a Doctor of Philosophy in Cosmology. And in 1962, he started his Doctor of Philosophy at Cambridge. During that time, he noticed that he often fell down and had difficulty moving. When he underwent a thorough examination, it was found that he had amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. According to the doctors, he only had 2 years to live. At first, it was very sad and frightening, but he did not give up. He continued his studies. He also met and fell in love with Jane Wilde, a student he knew before he was diagnosed. They got married in 1965 and had 3 children. At Cambridge, Hawking collaborated with Roger Penrose. They studied singularities, or points in space where the normal laws of physics no longer apply. Related to this, in 1970, he introduced a new idea about black holes. He discovered that they are not completely dark. They emit energy called Hawking radiation. Because of this, it's also possible for a black hole to disappear over time. This idea is one of his most important contributions to science. Meanwhile, in 1979, he became the Lucasian Professor of Mathematics at Cambridge. This is a prestigious position that was once held by the famous scientist Isaac Newton in 1663. Even as his illness worsened, Stephen Hawking did not stop teaching and discovering. He used technology to speak and communicate with others. In the following years, he wrote books that provided knowledge about the universe and reached millions of people around the world. Meanwhile, when Stephen was young, studying was not easy for him. He had difficulty with English and other subjects, so for most people, he seemed like just an ordinary student. But when it came to mathematics and science, that's where he truly excelled. At a young age, you could already see his intelligence and interest in things related to science. When he reached high school, his skills became even more evident. At the age of 17, he studied at University College, Oxford, where he began a course in physics. It was a big challenge for him because the pace of learning there was fast and the competition was tough. During his first year, his exam results were low, but he didn't give up. He worked even harder and used his intense curiosity to learn. As time went by, he gradually caught up and recovered. He learned to face difficulties and turn them into opportunities to become better. By his final year at Oxford, he had changed a lot as a student. His understanding of physics was deep, and it was clear where he was headed. This was also where his interest in theoretical physics began to grow. Even though it was difficult and complicated, it caught his attention even more. The uniqueness and vastness of this field pushed him to think more deeply. At Oxford, he finally found the path that would lead him to greater discoveries about the universe. Stephen Hawking was different compared to most students at Oxford. While others were busy going out and socializing, he was quieter and more focused on his thoughts. He liked thinking about math puzzles, reflecting on philosophy, and asking questions about the universe. He wasn't known as a popular student, but his classmates respected him because of his intelligence and deep interest in science. In his first year at University College, he said that the coursework was ridiculously easy for him. He could finish the tasks even without looking at how others did them. But that doesn't mean he was always alone. Gradually, he also started to get along with others and joined the boat club as a coxswain, the person who gives commands and signals while rowing. Even though he had a small build, he showed courage and sometimes a sense of humor while leading his stronger teammates. This is also where his perspective about science began to broaden. He was drawn to the ideas of great physicists like Albert Einstein and Werner Heisenberg. Roger Penrose, who studied black holes and general relativity, was his greatest influence. Because of this, Stephen Hawking's interest in him grew even more. And in 1962, he graduated from Oxford with a first-class degree in physics. After this, he moved to Cambridge to continue his postgraduate studies. There, he began studying singularities and the origin of the universe. But in 1963, while at Cambridge, heavy news arrived. As I mentioned earlier, he was diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. The doctors said his condition was severe and that he might not live for more than 2 years. For Stephen Hawking and his family, this was an extremely difficult trial. But even though the doctor's prognosis was grim, saying he might only have 2 years left to live, Stephen Hawking did not give up. Instead of giving in, he intensified his dedication to research. The disease, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which should have stopped him from reaching his dreams, became the reason for his deeper love for science. Stephen Hawking was not afraid of death. In one of his statements, he said, "I have lived with the prospect of an early death for the last 49 years. He added that he was not afraid of dying, but he was not ready to leave yet because there's so much I want to do first. With these words, he showed that his desire to contribute to the world was stronger than the fear brought by his illness. At Cambridge, his intellect became even more vibrant. It was here that he advanced his theory about black holes, which sparked curiosity among scientists. Instead of believing that black holes are completely sealed and nothing can escape, he showed that there is what is called Hawking radiation, a type of energy that can escape from the darkest corners of the universe. This idea was revolutionary because it changed people's perspective about the nature of the universe. Although the disease gradually changed his body, his mind remained whole and sharp. Every day was a challenge, from the ability to move to the ability to speak, but he faced it with great courage. Instead of letting his world limit him, he expanded his knowledge even more. In his final years before he passed away, Hawking left a clear warning. Although he benefited from the help of technology and artificial intelligence, as these allowed him to communicate, as he continued to communicate and do research, he asked a question that left a mark on everyone. What will happen if artificial intelligence surpasses human capability? What if it can already learn, make decisions, and control things beyond what we can stop? He not only showed the good image of technology, but also reminded the world to be careful. Progress is important, but it should always be rooted in responsibility. Hawking's words are not just a warning, but an invitation to think, act, and decide with caution and goodness for everyone. But Stephen Hawking's journey did not end there, because in 1983, together with physicist James Hartley, he published the idea they called the no-boundary proposal, or Hartle-Hawking state. According to this, space has no clear beginning and no end. It's as if time itself never really had a point of origin. It didn't just start one day, but has always existed in a different form. In this model, the universe didn't start from a small point or singularity. Instead, it came from a region of space-time with no boundary. This perspective greatly changed the traditional idea about the Big Bang and the very nature of time itself. Meanwhile, he didn't just stop at making theories. His ideas about the formation of the universe, about the flow of time, and the combination of general relativity and quantum mechanics had a huge influence on science. It served as a guide for experiments and in the design of technologies related to cosmology. Even though his illness continued to worsen, Stephen Hawking did not stop. He remained active in research, continuously coming up with new ideas and questions that opened up a deeper understanding about our universe. In addition, in 1988, he published the book A Brief History of Time. Here, he explained in a simple way complicated concepts such as the nature of time, the origin of the universe, black holes, and the search for a single theory that could explain everything. The book became a universal success. It sold over 9 million copies and was translated into many languages. Because of this, Stephen Hawking became more well-known around the world and became one of the most important voices in science during his time. Likewise, it cannot be denied that Stephen Hawking left behind more than just his theories. His life and career became a symbol of courage, intelligence, and resilience. For many decades, he was given prestigious awards and certificates that proved his significant contributions, not only to science but also to society. In 1974, he was accepted as a Fellow of the Royal Society, one of the highest honors a scientist can receive in the United Kingdom. Being part of this organization is a sign that his works and research have passed the strictest standards of science. After 3 decades, in 2006, he was awarded the Copley Medal by the Royal Society. This is the oldest science award in the world. It was also given to some of the most famous scientists in history, such as Charles Darwin and Albert Einstein. And Hawking's inclusion in that group is clear proof of his excellence. But even before that, in 1982, he was awarded the title Commander of the Order of the British Empire, or Commander of the Order of the British Empire. A few years later, in 1989, he was recognized as a Companion of Honor. This is a very rare title that is only given to a few individuals who have made significant contributions to Britain. Not long after, in 2009, he received the Presidential Medal of Freedom from the United States, the country's highest civil award. This shows that his influence was not only confined to the United Kingdom, but also reached different parts of the world. Aside from that, he also received other important awards, such as the Fundamental Physics Prize, the Albert Einstein Award, and the Gold Medal of the Royal Astronomical Society. These awards are only given to a few scientists who have paved new paths in the fields of physics and astronomy. But the recognition for Hawking did not end with awards. To continue his legacy, the Stephen Hawking Fellowship was established by the Cambridge Union. Its goal is to continue the spirit of science, discourse, and free thinking that he stood for during his lifetime. Stephen Hawking himself was the first recipient and delivered the inaugural lecture for this before he passed away. But why are these recognitions important? This is because all the awards received by Stephen Hawking are not just symbols of his intelligence. These are proof of his resilience as a person who did not let physical limitations defeat him. Even though he faced an illness that gradually weakened his body, his mind remained sharp and free. He became a symbol of hope and inspiration to millions of people. Despite the weakness of his body, he proved that nothing can stop a person who is determined and full of dedication. His life and achievements serve as a reminder that true strength comes from the mind and from inner fortitude. And even in the future, his legacy will remain. The awards and the Stephen Hawking Fellowship will serve as a guide for new generations of scientists and leaders of society. To get to know him better, let's talk more about his personal life. After he finished his Doctor of Philosophy at Cambridge, Stephen Hawking's personal life became even more colorful. In 1965, he married Jane Barrow Wild, a language student he met while he was still studying. Jane became his partner not only in life, but also in facing the challenges that came later on. They were blessed with 3 children: Robert, born in May 1967, Lucy in November 1970, and Timothy in April 1979. As the years went by, Jane also worked hard to continue her studies. She completed her Doctor of Philosophy in Medieval Spanish Poetry in April 1981. Despite being busy with her life as a wife and mother, she maintained her identity as an academic achiever. But the relationship between Stephen and Jane was not easy. Because Stephen's condition was worsening and he needed constant care from nurses and caregivers, tension arose in their family. They gradually separated around 1990 and finally got divorced in 1995. After that, Jane entered into a relationship with Jonathan Hellyer Jones. However, she continued to support Stephen, especially during the important moments of his life. But despite these heavy challenges, he proved all the predictions wrong. The progression of his condition was slow, and he was able to live longer than expected despite having significant physical limitations. But he gradually lost the ability to walk and became dependent on a wheelchair. Eventually, he also lost his voice. Instead of giving up, he used a speech-generating device that he controlled with a small movement of his cheek. Through this technology, he was able to communicate, write books, and give lectures. Although the process was slow and it took several hours to finish a single statement, he did not stop teaching and researching. Hawking's fight against the disease served as an example of perseverance. In the same year as their divorce, Hawking met and married Elaine Mason, a nurse and his former caregiver. They got married in September 1995. At first, Elaine brought new hope and happiness to Stephen. However, it wasn't long before reports of abuse in their home began to surface. Although the rumors spread, Hawking himself strongly denied the accusations and considered them untrue. But after 11 years together, his relationship with Elaine also ended in divorce in 2006. Hawking did not elaborate further on the issues surrounding this. Instead, he focused again on his work and reconnected with his first family, with Jane, their children and grandchildren. Stephen Hawking's personal life was not easy. After the end of his second marriage, his love for his 3 children remained strong: Robert, Lucy, and Timothy. His children described him as a father who never stopped being present and an inspiration. Despite his illness, they praised the courage, selflessness, and above all, the sense of humor that Stephen brought. Even though his body was limited, he never withheld joy from his family and the public. Hawking was known for his intelligence, but he was also greatly admired for his wit and humor. Even in the face of a serious physical condition, he never withheld anything from his family and the public. He often joked about his own condition, and this became the key for people to easily approach him. In his interviews and public appearances, he showed that a scientist can also be cheerful and humorous. Even in shows like The Simpsons and The Big Bang Theory, he showed the ability to talk about serious science while still making people laugh. In 1988, Stephen Hawking published the book, A Brief History of Time. This brought him from the world of science into the hearts of many people. In this book, he explained in a simple way the complicated concepts about our universe, black holes, and the origin of time. The book sold more than 25 million copies and was translated into more than 40 languages. This is one of the most important reasons why Stephen Hawking became famous, not only as a physicist, but also as a modern interpreter of science. But even though his body continued to weaken, Hawking did not stop discovering. With the help of modern technology like a speech synthesizer that is operated by the small movement of his cheek, he was still able to express his ideas and theories. Until his final years, he focused on what made him strong: quantum mechanics, cosmology, and the mysteries of the universe. His illness did not stop him from continuing to contribute knowledge to science. Meanwhile, 10 days before he passed away on March 14, 2018, Stephen finished a paper entitled A Smooth Exit from Eternal Inflation, together with his co-author Thomas Hertog. Their study focused on the idea of eternal inflation, which suggests that the universe continues to expand, and this could result in many multiverses. But in their new model, they suggest that the universe might not be that complicated. Instead of an infinite multiverse, they proposed a finite and orderly universe that is easier to describe through science. Although this is not a personal confession, this can be considered Stephen Hawking's final message to science, that even the biggest questions about the universe might have simpler answers. Throughout Stephen Hawking's career, he was known not only as a genius in physics, but also as an excellent interpreter of complex ideas. In the books he wrote and in his research, he was able to make concepts like black holes, the origin of the universe, and the very nature of time more accessible. But before he passed away on March 14, 2018, he left behind a final paper that provided a new direction. In the discussion about the origin of our universe, this paper is titled A Smooth Exit from Eternal Inflation. Scientists have been discussing the idea of eternal inflation for a long time. According to this, after the Big Bang, the universe went through a rapid expansion. But according to the theory, that expansion may still be continuing even now, not just in our universe, but also in other possible universes. In other words, we might be in a multiverse. Together with Belgian physicist Thomas Hertog, Hawking examined the weaknesses of the traditional model of eternal inflation. According to them, if we follow the usual explanation, it would appear that the multiverse is infinite and full of endless complicated structures. But for Hawking and Hertog, this is not realistic. They suggested that our universe is finite, orderly, and not extremely chaotic. In their words, it is reasonably smooth and globally finite. However, Hawking's suggestions are not just speculation. They said that it is possible for other universes to leave a trace in the cosmic microwave background, or cosmic microwave background, the ancient light left behind after the Big Bang. If another universe collided with or interacted with ours, there might be a slight pattern or unusual polarization visible in the cosmic microwave background. Even though this signal is very faint, it might be detected in the future using the mass adapter. These are deep space probes and sensitive instruments. Similarly, Hawking's final paper has two important implications. First, it limited the idea of the multiverse. It's not an infinite and fractal system, but rather more orderly and finite, like a tamed multiverse. Second, he made something testable that was previously considered almost impossible to prove. Through observation of the cosmic microwave background, there is a concrete way to determine if there are traces of another universe.